Genius Kids. Cultivating love for learning.
Lesson 3. Establishment of British rule in India. Knowledge acquisition. We have read in the previous chapter about the decline of the Mughal Empire and rise of several regional kingdoms under gunners, nobles and local chieftains acting as independent rulers. However, another significant development of the period was the arrival of traders and France of different countries like Portugal, Netherlands, France and England. We already know that Portuguese navigator Vasco da Gama discovered the sea route between India and Europe in 1498. The Portuguese were followed by the Dutch, French and English merchants who came to India to trade, especially in spices and textiles. Here we will try to understand the process of how one of these groups of European traders became the rulers of India. European settlements in India. The Portuguese. The Portuguese were the first group of European traders to reach India. In 1502, two fleets were dispatched under Vasco da Gama and Estevão da Gama. It was followed by Alfonso de Albuquerque in 1503. Alfonso was the real founder of the Portuguese Empire in the East. He succeeded Almeida, the first governor, in 1509 and captures Goa in 1510 AD from the Bijapur ruler. Goa became the center of their commercial and political power in India. The success of Portuguese traders in India triggered a race among the other European powers for a share in the rich trade. In due course, the Portuguese were forced to surrender their monopoly of the Indian trade to their rivals after a series of fierce wars. The Dutch. The Dutch were the first to challenge the monopoly of the Portuguese. The Dutch East India Company was formed in 1602, which was granted the right to carry on trade. The first conquered Java, then found a settlement at Tranquebar in Tanjore district in 1620 and once at Simpur in Bengal. The Dutch effectively checked the English competition in the Malaya archipelago in 1623 AD and drove them out. The British now concentrated on India. The Dutch were mainly interested in the Spice Islands in Indonesia, where they established their hold and sold their Indian settlements to the British in 1845. English East India Company, EEIC. Started by a group of merchants. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I gave it a charter which granted the company the exclusive right to trade with the East. This meant that no other trading group from England could compete with the company. The company began its trading activities at the port of Surat. Indian rulers enthusiastically accommodated the newcomers in the hope of pitting them against the Portuguese. The company defeated the Portuguese on the Sea of Surat in 1612 and they revealed its naval strength. An imperial famine from Jahangir allowed the company to set up a permanent factory at Surat in 1613. 2 years later, the British rights to trade in Gujarat. Jahangir granted them permission to trade in his territories at Surat on the west coast and Hooghly in Bengal on the east. These and other locations on the peninsula became centers of international trade in spices, cotton, sugar, raw silk, saltpeter, etc. The French. The French East India Company was formed in France in 1064 during the reign of Louis XIV. It was under the control of the state, unlike the EEIC, which was a private commercial venture of a few merchants. It established its factories at Surat in 1668 and Masulipattnam. Puducherry, which later became the capital of the French-occupied territory in India, was founded in 1673. Anglo-French rivalry and trade wars. The Carnatic Wars. Karnataka was a state ruled by a Nawab under the Nizam, with its capital at Erkot. The Nawab was now acting independently. Tanjore was a Maratha Jagir, while Madurai and Tiruchirappalli were both under the Nawab of Karnataka. Mysore was a Hindu kingdom under the Wadiyar dynasty. To extend their territories, the Marathas attacked Karnataka and killed its Nawab, Dost Ali. Safdar Ali became Nawab at Erkot and Chanda Sahib at Tiruchirappalli. Safdar Ali was stabbed to death in 1742 and Chanda Sahib was attacked and imprisoned by the Marathas. The Nizam appointed Anwaruddin as the guardian of the minor son of Safdar Ali. Anwar killed the minor prince and became the Nawab. After the invasion of Nadir Shah, the British and the French both sought political power, as the weakness of the Mughal Empire was exposed. These countries were traditional rivals and thus there was intense competition between the two companies. This resulted in a war which lasted for about 20 years. It was fought in the Carnatic region in South India because both the companies wanted to have trade monopoly. These wars are collectively known as the Carnatic Wars. The First Carnatic War, 1746 to 1748. In 1740, Austrian War of Succession broke out in Europe. In this war, England and France took opposite sides. This naturally resulted in war between their trading companies in India. This war is known as First Carnatic War. In the events that followed, Dupleix, the French governor of Puducherry, captured Fort St. George in Madras in 1746. The British tried to recapture it but failed. Meanwhile, the Austrian War of Succession ended in 1748 with the signing of the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, and so did the First Carnatic War. Under the terms of the treaty, Madras was returned to the English East India Company. This war raised the prestige of Dupleix because apart from seizing Fort St. George, he had also defeated Nawab Anwaruddin of Erkot. It so happened that when Dupleix captured Madras, the French naval commander returned it to the British for a bribe. Now Dupleix sought the help of Anwaruddin, the Nawab of Carnatic, and promised to hand over Madras to him if he helped Dupleix to recapture it. The Nawab helped Dupleix but he failed to keep his promise because, under the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, Madras was to be returned to the English. In a battle near Adyar in Madras, the disillusioned Anwaruddin fought with Dupleix but was defeated. The Second Carnatic War, 1748 to 1754. It was an unofficial war fought between the trading companies of England and France when there was peace between them in Europe. Nizam Asaf Jah died in 1748. The throne of Hyderabad was fiercely contested by his son Nasir Jung and grandson Muzaffar Jung. This resulted in civil war. The ambitious French governor Dupleix helped Chanda Sahib, the son-in-law of Dost Ali, and Muzaffar Jung with his well-trained French army. They succeeded in installing Muzaffar Jung as Nizam and Chanda Sahib as Nawab of Carnatic after Anwaruddin was killed in 1749 while fighting against the French at Ambur. In return, the French received many grants as gifts as well as trading monopoly in South India. The growing influence of the French threatened British trade in the Carnatic. The British decided to support Muhammad Ali, the son of the late Nawab Anwaruddin of Carnatic. The British forces, led by Robert Clive, attacked and occupied Erkot. The French were defeated and Chanda Sahib was put to death. Muhammad Ali was made the Nawab of Carnatic and the British were now in complete control of Carnatic. Dupleix tried to regain his lost glory, but the French government recalled him in 1754. The war between two companies came to an end after the Treaty of Puducherry, in which the British and the French restored territories captured from each other. The Third Carnatic War, 1756 to 1763. The Third Carnatic War followed just 2 years later, in 1756. Once again, it was an echo of a European war, the 7 Years' War, which broke out in Europe. The Third Carnatic War was the last in a series of 18th century conflict between the French and the British for supremacy in the region. The first two Carnatic Wars were mainly fought on the eastern coast of southern India, but the Third Carnatic War crossed the limits of the south to reach the eastern province of Bengal. The British had defeated Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah of Bengal in the Battle of Plassey and captured the province. It helped the British because they could utilize the rich resources of Bengal to finance their Carnatic wars. Thus, they succeeded in demolishing the French plans for control of the country. The final blow was dealt in 1760, when the British forces, led by Sir Eyre Coote, defeated the French army. The French defended Pondicherry bravely but surrendered on 16 January 1761. The 7 Years' War was a war that took place between 1754 and 1763, with the main conflict being on the period between 1756 to 1763. Eventually, the French lost all their possessions in India. The war ended in 1763 with the Treaty of Paris, and with it ended the French pursuit of Empire of India. As per the terms of the treaty, Puducherry was restored to the French as a center of trade. They were not allowed to fortify it. With the end of the Third Carnatic War, French adventurism in India also ended, throwing the field open for the British conquest of the rest of India. Wars with Indian rulers. Bengal. The East India Company came to Bengal in 1650, when the Mughal emperor allowed the company to settle in Bengal and trade free of duty on annual payment of 3,000 taka. Within a few years, the company's trade began to expand rapidly. In the late 17th century, their intrusion into the internal trade of Bengal became a cause of conflict. They openly ignored the rules of trade laid down by the Mughal ruler. In retaliation, Aurangzeb declared war on them in 1686 and completely routed them. The company, after realizing their mistakes, sought pardon. Ali Wardi Khan, ruler of Bengal, was a wise and able administrator. He was succeeded by his grandson Siraj-ud-Daulah in 1756. The young Nawab protested the unlawful activities of the company. These activities mainly included unauthorized fortifications of Fort William, illegal private trade and abuse of royal farmland, and shelter given to the enemies of Nawab. The Nawab sent many reminders to Calcutta, Kolkata, for amicable settlement of the dispute, but the English paid no heed to them. This infuriated the Nawab and he ordered his forces to occupy Kasimbazar factory. After the surrender of factory chief, the Nawab marched upon Calcutta, Kolkata, and captured it. The British in Bengal asked the Madras Presidency for reinforcements. Robert Clive was sent to Calcutta, Kolkata, with Admiral Charles Watson. They recovered Calcutta, Kolkata, in January 1757. Siraj-ud-Daulah was compelled to sign the Aligarh Treaty with the English. The main provisions of the treaty were to allow the company all the privileges sanctioned to them by the then Mughal Emperor Farrukhsiyar, to exempt all the English goods passing through Bengal from custom duties, to allow the company to coin money in Calcutta, Kolkata, to allow the British to fortify Calcutta, Kolkata, without any hindrance. The treaty was humiliating for Siraj-ud-Daulah, but his principal advisors and ministers advised him to accept it. Battle of Plassey, 1757. Robert Clive, who started his career in the company as a clerk, was a clever man. Recognizing the weakness of the political structure in Bengal, he conspired with some of the corrupt members of the Nawab's court such as Mir Jafar, the commander, Jagat Setha, the banker of Bengal, and Amichand, the treasurer. Mir Jafar was assured by the British that he would be the next Nawab of Bengal after Siraj-ud-Daulah was deposed. The war was inevitable due to fast-changing circumstances. The British accused Siraj-ud-Daulah of conspiring with the French against them, and Robert Clive with a small army of 8,000 European soldiers marched towards Murshidabad. In the Battle of Plassey, Siraj-ud-Daulah was defeated, imprisoned and later killed. Mir Jafar and his troop did not participate in the war. Mir Jafar was made the Nawab. The company rewarded him with the grant of the Jagirdari of 24 Parganas, and a huge sum was paid to the officers, including Clive. The company got undisputed rights to free trade. The Battle of Plassey is an important landmark in the history of India. It marked the first step in the transformation of a small trading company into the supreme political power. The British got a platform from where they eventually conquered the whole of India. Do you know? Jawaharlal Nehru, in The Discovery of India, 1946, describes Clive as having won the battle by promoting treason and forgery, and pointedly notes that British rule in India had an unsavory beginning and something of that bitter taste has clung to it ever since. The Battle of Buxar, 1764. Mir Jafar is also double-crossed by the British. During the 3-year rule of Mir Jafar, the company's officials extorted money from the Nawab and siphoned off huge sums from the treasury. Harassed by the British, hard-pressed for funds and facing a revolt in his province, it is not surprising that Mir Jafar began to turn against the company. This only provided the British an opportunity to replace him with Mr. Qasim, his son-in-law. Mir Qasim was a competent ruler. As soon as he became the Nawab, he shifted his capital from Murshidabad to Mongia to distance himself from the constant interference of the British. He was the last ruler who tried to reassert his authority. He trimmed state expenditure, removed all the incompetent officials who were close to the British, and hired Europeans to train his army. He also introduced some administrative reforms soon. He came in direct conflict with the British because of the legal restrictions imposed on internal trade. Mir Qasim ordered the abolition of all internal trade duties. This led to an attack on the city of Patna by the British, and after defeating Mir Qasim, the company reinstated Mr. Jafar as Nawab. Mir Qasim joined hands with Shuja'ud-Daulah, Nawab of Awadh, and Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, and their combined forces met the company's army at Buxar in October 1764. The combined forces were badly defeated by the British forces, led by Major Munro. Mir Qasim fled by the battle and died in obscurity, probably in Delhi in 1777. The Nawab of Awadh and Shah Alam surrendered. The war came to an end by the Treaty of Allahabad, Prayagraj. The British obtained the right to collect land revenue in Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Robert Clive was appointed the gunner and commander-in-chief of the English army in Bengal in 1765. Dual system of government, 1765 to 1772. The Battle of 1764 laid the firm ground for the establishment of British sovereignty in Bengal. Robert Clive was made the governor of Bengal for a second time in 1765. As per the Allahabad, Prayagraj Treaty, the company acquired both Nijamat as well as Diwani over Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Robert Clive knew that collecting revenue of Diwani from a vast area like Bengal, Bihar and Odisha was not an easy task. Thus, he decided to give the responsibility of revenue collection to Indians. He appointed two deputy Diwans, who were mainly responsible for carrying out the work of the Diwani. In this way, Robert Clive introduced the dual system of government, where the real power vested in the company but the responsibility of administration was exercised through Indian agencies. The people of Bengal suffered immensely under this system. Even during the famine in 1770, neither the company nor the Nawab provided any relief to the people. The dual system of government in Bengal ended in 1772. Bengal was brought under the direct control of the company. The new Governor General, Warren Hastings, 1770 to 1785, embarked on a further expansion of British influence in India. Keywords: Charter, a written and signed declaration. Monopoly, exclusive control over the supply or trade of a product. Diwani, right to collect revenue from a particular area. Let's revise. Continuous review. The Dutch East India Company, founded in 1602, were the first to challenge the monopoly of the British. The French fought 3 Carnatic wars for supremacy over Indian states. The Battle of Plassey, 1757, and the Battle of Buxar, 1764, strengthened the British position in India. Clive introduced the dual system of government in Bengal, but was accused of accepting bribes. Warren Hastings became the new representative of the British Empire in India.
Like, share and subscribe.